So, I'm Francie Wolff, and what I'm going to be doing today is giving a talk that I gave on July 23rd, 2017 to the Unitarian Church. They asked me to talk about what it means to be a Jew. And I have to give you many disclaimers because I'm not an expert. A lot of what I'm saying is just my own experience. And, well, let me just start. It's called One Drop of Blood. What does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be a Jew? Ask two Jews and you get three opinions. That's a well-known Jewish saying, if you've heard it before. You've asked me to give a talk on Judaism, and I have to tell you that it's true. If you were to ask 16 Jews to give this talk, you would get 16 different versions. It's embedded in our Jewish texts, our Jewish practices, and our Jewish traditions to ask questions. Even the central declaration of faith, called the Shema, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's open for questions and interpretation. If you are Jewish, it's okay to doubt. In fact, it's almost your obligation to question. The emphasis on intellectual inquiry is what many have said has led to producing so many Jewish artists and great thinkers. My talk today will be on what it means for me to be a Jew. And it will be full of questions. As a disclaimer, I need to tell you that I'm no expert on the subject. So the answers that I do have come from my personal experience and what I've learned by being born Jewish. For official definitions of Judaism, you need to ask a rabbi or a currently converted Jew, because the converted Jew knows more about Judaism than almost anybody. Because in order to be converted, they had to learn. And that's not me. So what does it mean to be born a Jew? My mother was from a Russian Orthodox Jewish family, and my father was a German Jewish Holocaust survivor. And when I say Holocaust survivor, I need to qualify that because some people don't want me to use that phrase because he wasn't actually in the camps, but he escaped in time. His family and friends were all slaughtered. And again, that's a really long story about how that happened. That's another talk that I gave. According to ancient Jewish tradition, if your mother is Jewish, then you are Jewish. If your father is Jewish, well, that's another matter. Judaism is a very practical religion. Everyone knows who the mother was. I've always been told that Judaism is a religion, not a race. Yet, a recent DNA test revealed that I am 96.9 Ashkenazi Jew. I was born with Jewish, Ashkenazi, Semitic blood coursing through my veins. It cannot be denied. It also means that I'm a member of an oppressed minority. My father used to tell me that it didn't matter if you only had one drop of Jewish blood in you, Hitler would make you fodder for the onions. What if you're not born a Jew? You're of some other culture. Say you come from an Irish Catholic background with not a drop of Jewish blood in you, and you want to be a Jew. Judaism does not encourage or make it easy for converts. Some rabbis still hold a tradition of saying no 3 times to a person who wants to convert. We're the opposite of the people that come to your door and want to say to, which I have been the subject of that many times. You would have a very long study and trial period, usually at least a year, before the rabbi finally thinks you're ready to meet with a committee of 3 rabbis to examine you to see if you become a fitting candidate for conversion. If you are a male, and this is something I learned, I did not know, I did a little research for this, you might go through circumcision, or if you are already circumcised, a hatafa dam brit, or taking of a drop of blood. The practice of circumcision is another example of the practicality of Jewish law. Along with keeping kosher, these were matters of cleanliness in biblical times. These very practical Jewish laws are just one of the reasons that Jews have survived for so many years. But what of those Jews who do have a drop of blood, but they never even realized it because they weren't raised Jewish? Are they Jewish? Ask 2 Jews, get 3 opinions. Ask Moses, ask a Spanish person who's been brought up Catholic and discovers some Jewish artifacts in the attic, only to find out that he comes from a family of conversos, those Jews forced to convert to Catholicism during the Spanish Inquisition. Ask yourself if you might have that 1 drop of Jewish blood in you. Ask 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Are you a Jew if you know that you have the drop of blood in you, but you don't practice Judaism? Some modern-day Jews call themselves cultural Jews, meaning that they relate to being Jewish through the language, literature, food, etc. They may even say, I'm Jewish, but not religious. What does it mean to practice Judaism? Are some Jews more Jewish than others because of the way they practice Judaism? Ask a strictly Orthodox Jew and he will answer yes. Ask a Reformed Jew, such as myself, and she will answer no. The 3 traditional denominations of Judaism are Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. Put simply, the Orthodox are fundamentalists. Conservative are sort of middle of the road. And the Reform are more adaptive to change. There are official Jewish organizations representing these 3 traditional Jewish denominations. But there are also official and unofficial branches and movements within and without these 3 denominations, such as Hasidic Jews, who are Orthodox but more mystical. Those are the ones with, you might say, the funny hats, the black coats, and the beards. Then there's the Jewish Renewal Movement, which is more New Agey, but harkens back to mystical, Kabbalistic practices. A Jew can fall anywhere within these 3 groups, be any combination of these groups, and or fall anywhere between. One Jew's practice or beliefs may be completely different from another. Take the case of the new rabbi who comes to a well-established congregation. Am I on that if I sit?
Yeah.
Every week on the Sabbath, a fight erupts during the service. When it comes time to recite the Shema prayer, half the congregation stands and the other half sits. The half who stands say, of course we stand for the Shema. It's the credo of Judaism. Throughout history, thousands of Jews have died with the words of the Shema on their lips. The halves who remain seated say, if you are seated when you get to the Shema, you remain seated. The people who are standing yell at the people who are sitting, stand up, while the people who are sitting yell at the people who are standing, sit down. It's destroying the whole decorum of the service and driving the new rabbi crazy. Finally, it's brought to the rabbi's attention that a nearby home for the aged is a 98-year-old man who was a founding member of the congregation. So in accordance with Talmudic tradition, the rabbi appoints a delegation of 3, one who stands for the Shema, one who sits, and the rabbi himself, to go interview the man. They enter his room, and the man who stands for the Shema rushes over to the old man and says, wasn't it the tradition in our synagogue to stand for the Shema? No, the old man answers in a weak voice. That wasn't the tradition. The other man jumps up excitedly. Wasn't it the tradition in our synagogue to sit for the Shema? No, the old man says. That wasn't the tradition. At this point, the rabbi cannot control himself. He cuts in angrily. I don't care what the tradition was. Just tell them one way or another. You know what goes on in the service every week? The people who are standing yell at the people who are sitting. The people who are sitting yell at the people who are standing. That was the tradition, the old man says. I was brought up as a Reformed Jew, and our congregation in Springfield is a member of the Union of Reformed Judaism. Actually, that has changed now. Due to hiring rabbis and the like, I don't think we belong to that anymore, and there are a lot more Orthodox Jews in the congregation. My dad, Arthur Rosen, was a devout Reformed Jew. Some Orthodox Jew in Springfield and my dad were mostly responsible for originally uniting them with the Reformed Jews to form the United Hebrew Congregation, which is renamed Temple Israel after the new Kabbalah Israel. It's in flux. So, what does it mean for me to have been raised as a Reformed Jewish girl in Springfield in the 1950s? I was the only Jewish person my age in the whole city. I attended Greenwood until I was a junior in high school, and each year I participated in the annual Christmas pageant, in which we sang Christmas carols and told the story of Christ. I remember marching into the gym singing, "Oh, come on, you faithful," and Mom and Dad were there in the audience. Dad didn't want to, quote, make a stink, and singled me out as different. Yet, he talked to my class each year, from kindergarten on, about the Hanukkah holiday and what it means to be a Jew. I was very proud and even made to feel special because I had 8 holidays in celebration during Hanukkah, while my Christian friends only had 1 day of Christmas. But make no mistake, Jesus is never mentioned in true Jewish teachings, nor is the concept of heaven and hell. Yet the phrase, "do unto others as you would have them do unto you," is often attributed to Jesus as only a Christian concept. It is actually a universal concept and is basic to Judaism. As a Jew, Jesus was quoting the Torah when he said these words. The Torah is the first 5 books of Moses and is a Jewish basic holy scripture. Rabbi Rita Sherwin often told me that, open the Torah to the exact middle and you will find the very heart of Jesus. Leviticus 19:17. Love your fellow as yourself. A very famous quote, often repeated by Jews, is from Rabbi Hillel. That which is hateful unto you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the whole of the Torah. The rest is commentary. One story that illustrates Jesus as a Jew goes like this. 4 Noah's sons are about to take their vows. Dressed in their white gowns, they enter the chapel for their symbolic marriage to Jesus, making them brothers of Christ. Just as the ceremony was about to begin, 4 Hasidic Jews came in and sat down in the front row. The Mother Superior said, I'm so honored you want to share this experience with us. May I ask you why you came? We're from the groom's family. It's a joke. I attended Sunday school in Springfield, and I went to temple on some Friday nights and always on the high holidays. In the 50s, there was no such thing as a bat mitzvah, so I was confirmed with another girl who was a year older than me. I did not have to go through the lengthy study that a boy goes through for a bar mitzvah, nor was my coming of age celebrated in the same way as a 13-year-old boy. The thing I remember most about my confirmation study with the rabbi was the title of the book we used, Little Lower Than the Angels, and the great watchmaker theory of evolution, which goes something like this. How could such a beautifully orchestrated world with all creatures breathing the same air, each intricately designed to coexist and evolve on the planet, come to be without a maker? In those days of adolescence, when the young mind is just developing and beginning to question just about everything, religion can provide some of those answers. But it's also at the same time when a young person, such as me, can become cognizant of hypocrisy and be resistant to dogma. Rabbi Susan Grossman put it this way. She said, the Jewish model of questioning and intellectualizing means that we may have a slightly greater tendency than our peers to think for ourselves and reject tradition and authority. That can be a blessing and a curse. We are what the Bible calls stiff-necked people. This reflects great strength of purpose and character, but also plain stubbornness as we exert our sovereign selves, often at the cost of rejecting the very tradition that contributed so much to who we have become. This is what happened to me. After I became confirmed, I taught Hebrew in Sunday school during my teenage years. But by the time I was sent off to college to seek knowledge, a term my father often used, or to marry a nice young Jewish boy, a phrase my mother often used, I was disillusioned with Judaism and quit practicing altogether. I felt that the Hebrew I learned was just mouthing sounds. It became mumbo jumbo to me. I saw hypocrisy in the women of the synagogue, whom I judged as only being interested in who was wearing what, rather than the actual religious services. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was marry a Jewish man. So I became a non-practicing Jew for over 15 years, until I had a child of my own, who is sitting. He's 47 now. He's still my child. In 1982, my son Eli was a preschooler and had no sense of being Jewish or belonging to any community. My husband and I had been living all over the country in a hippie lifestyle. The last place we lived was an isolated farmhouse in Idaho, where Eli basically only had cows to talk to. And he actually did eat. They were definitely not Jewish. So we moved back to Springfield, where my mom and dad and the Jewish community were waiting to give him Jewish identity. I then became a practicing Jew again, for the sake of my parents and my son. Eli came to know and respect his grandparents, and he learned all about Jewish values and traditions. What are some of those traditions? One of the things Dad used to repeat was, roots, you gotta have roots, which is another way, I think, of saying tradition, tradition. He talked about how the beauty of the Jewish religion was that Jewish holidays were celebrated in the home, which made family central to being Jewish. Another beautiful thing that my dad often repeated about Jewish tradition was that no matter where you were in the world or what language was spoken, if you were to walk into a synagogue, you would literally be at home. You would hear the very same Hebrew words spoken and studied, the same Torah portion that was spoken in every other synagogue around the world at the same time. This concept, as expressed by my own father, also explained by Michael Levine in a book about Jewish spirituality and mysticism. He says, Judaism in large part survived because it's not dependent on a place for its practice. Virtually all of Judaism can be practiced any place on the globe because Jews sense a holiness in time in their religion, not just a holiness of location. He goes on to say, the idea of holiness in times makes Judaism portable. You can keep the Sabbath in New York City, and you can keep it in Greenland, and you can even keep it in the desert or the polar ice. One time my dad was asked to deliver a speech to the Latter-day Saints as if it were his last lecture. Here is what some of the things he said about being a Jew. For the Jew, deeds and acts during his lifetime are of the utmost importance. Belief, prayer, and testimony definitely take second place. He went on to say, one of the most respected interpretations of the story of creation goes like this. God created the universe completely. He created man to do the last finishing touch, to complete it, even to improve on it. This is man's duty, his job, and his reason for his existence. The law, the Torah, was given to him to establish a guide to such a life. Dad was referring to the basic Jewish precept of tikkun olam, which means to heal and repair the earth. One well-known and often quoted Jewish adage from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai goes like this. If you should happen to be holding a sapling in your hand when they tell you that the Messiah has arrived, first plant the sapling and then go out and greet the Messiah. Jews are still waiting for the Messiah, and some will say the Messianic age to arrive, which will be a time of worldwide peace and understanding. It is our job as Jews to do what we can to hasten that time. My Jewish upbringing is what inspired me to become a peace activist, or Rodef Shalom, a seeker of peace in my own life. My favorite Jewish prayer, usually recited in each service, is this. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the people of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be the stronghold of peace, and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health, and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands. And may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace. Amen. To come along also means standing up for social justice and performing good deeds or positive commandments, otherwise known as mitzvahs. These mitzvahs are actually listed, such as attend a funeral, tend to the sick, give to the poor, etc., etc. One of the first and most important mitzvah for a Jew is to study the Torah in order to discover these commandments. Jews are often called the people of the book. Learning and reading are exalted. For example, on Passover, when giving a Seder, the youngest child who can read is given the honor of reading the 4 questions, starting with, why is this night different from all other nights? Everyone turns to the child and commends his ability to read. So as soon as a child can read, he is not only lauded, but is also taught the question. In a tape I made of my father's life story, I asked him if he was very religious. At the time he escaped from Germany, he answered, I was not religious from the standpoint of orthodox or fundamental. No, I'll tell you exactly how I feel, and even now about it. And I felt at those times about it. My conviction, knowledge, and feelings about my background made me strong. I became proud of it. He went on to relate an incident when a Nazi hit him in his face and knocked his glasses off, and made my father pick up the glasses and give them to him. Then the Nazi smacked him in the face, spat on my dad, and made him say thank you before giving him back to him. Dad explained, it is the knowledge about your own background, who you are and what you are as a Jew, that made me survive and made me leave too and save my life. It is that same knowledge about my background that also makes me a Jew. My parents have passed away, and my son has moved to Florida. I said California, he's in Florida now. And I have reached a new phase in my life as an older woman. But the Jewish community is still here to give me support, and I'm now finding that being a Jew, I can dig deep into the Jewish thought and teachings that help me guide me on my new spiritual path towards wisdom. The basic concepts, like treating your neighbor as yourself, doing good deeds, seeking social justice and peace, are universal ideas to almost all religions. I could be a Unitarian, a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, and still adhere to these ideas. Trappist monk Thomas Merton expressed it this way: all religions lead to God, only in different ways, and every man should go according to his own conscience, and settle things according to his own private way of doing things. I choose to turn to Judaism, not for the absolute answers, but for the questions. I will probably never know the answers, but I will still be asking the questions.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, I got done much quicker than I thought.
That's
You have
okay, I
half
got
an
a few
hour.
things that
You
I
can
just
ask
wanted to make a
questions.
comment on. Let me turn this on. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
All right. One of the things that I've learned about Christ is that unless you learn about Judaism, you cannot know what Christ did at his time, or Jesus the man, because he came and he is a Jew,
Yes.
And he had to, he was a Pharisee, as far as I understand. So he was a Jew of Jews. He followed the law. He did what was necessary, that the law required. But out of that law came his teachings. And you can go back through Judaism and you can find his teachings in what it was that he was saying to the people. It's just that everybody was so trapped into their fear, because we all live in fear. We just do. This is what we start from. And
Some people actually promote that.
say what?
Some leaders actually promote fear.
Well, yes, you have to. If I can't make you fear, I can't make you put money in my basket. Okay, everybody wants to buy their way to heaven, in a sense. Whatever this heaven and hell is. Yes, it's all a political in a sense. But I think that was one of the things that that taught me the most about Jesus, and was able to give me the ability to go in and see his teachings and be able to see what his teaching probably was and what it probably wasn't, is just by knowing the mystical side of Judaism and where all of that came from. Because this tells me who the man is. This is what he's doing. So I just thank you, because it's something a lot of people don't ever recognize. Is that he wasn't blue-eyed and Caucasian.
He was a good Jew.
Oh yes, he was.
He rebelled.
Yes. Well, he rebelled in the mystical sense.
Yes.
He wanted all of them to know that it was the mystical side
Right.
that was going to lead them where they needed to go. It was not the political.
The only place where Judaism parts is that we do not believe he was a son of God.
We're all sons of God.
Yes.
So whatever they say is up to them. It's okay. They can argue over little bits and pieces of things in life. All Jesus wanted to do was to tell each and every one of us that we were gods in ourselves.
Yes.
And all knowledge is available to everyone who is willing to ask and wait. Because the answer may come tonight, and the answer may not come for 10 years. But the answer is going to come. It doesn't matter. So anyway, I thank you for what you
Mike.
taught us. You want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Have you been to Israel? Have you been to Israel?
I went in 2003 on what was called a compassionate listening trip. And I was a citizen delegate. And I listened we actually went to the Palestinian territories, which you weren't supposed to do. And I listened to people from both sides, and it changed my life completely. And it completely changed my life. I do have a program where I did season peace in Israel, Palestine. I used to do it. And so I don't know how you wrote it for me. It's really tough now because of the war, because of what's happening here. And it's even more tough for me to talk to Jews than it is, because Jews have different, especially in our congregation, different ideas about what's going on.
I was there in 96 for the celebration of the 2000th anniversary of the founding of Jerusalem as David's capital. And so there was all kinds of Christian celebrations when I was there. We went to concerts every night, and we toured quite a bit. I didn't get to go to Jacob's Well, and when I came home, I found out that someone was killed there while I was there. But I did go, I had a student that wanted me to go to Schindler's grave, and I was the only one on my tour that knew anything about it, and I ended up going to Schindler's grave. And it was, the minute you went down into the cemetery, you could tell. They told me, go ask those guys there, give them $1 and they'll show you. But the whole tomb above ground, you could see the name. Everything else was covered in stones of remembrance, and all the way around it was just covered. It was just a mound of stones of remembrance. So that was really a profound thing for me to see that. Of course, we went to Rachel's tomb. We went all over, and I was baptized in the Jordan River by the guy that I went with. He had been to Israel 10 times and made sure that even though it's Muslim, that we went in the Dome of the Rock and actually touched the rock. It was supposed to be the rock that Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac on, is what the rock is all about.
Unless you're Muslim.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Isaac.
Yeah. But I mean but it was
Ishmael.
it was an amazing experience to be in Israel, and
I know.
I would go back.
It's a very, very, I came back realizing why they're fighting, because it is a very, very sacred place. For
And
everyone.
when I was there, the wall was not separated between Goyim and Jews. Now it's separated. The Jews have their section and the Goyims have their section. But when I was there, it was all open, and there were a lot of bar mitzvahs going on, and it was very different than it is now. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. And I found out about a year and a half ago when my son did a genealogy that there are Star of Davids in my lineage. So yeah, I have a drop of Jewish blood. But my grandfather was Mennonite, which I think was a crossover, but I don't know. But a lot of the Mennonite kind of traditions are still very family oriented. So anyway, but your talk was amazing. Anybody else have anything they want to ask or say? So is your son you say he's from Florida? Is he just here for a visit, or?
Yeah, just visiting.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to see your mom.
Of course.
So, okay.
Thank you for spending your time with us and for sharing with us. It was fascinating, and I was really glad to hear it. And we have a lot more similarities than many Christian churches. We don't really call ourselves a Christian church. We're about positive spirituality. We don't believe in heaven and hell. We live that right here on earth, sometimes of our own making. And I was just really surprised about how much similarities there are. We follow Jesus, we follow his teachings, not him. We don't idolize Jesus. We're very grateful that he came to show us how to live properly. And, we all try to follow all those lovely things, wonderful things that he did say.
Oh, and I'm 4% Ashkenazi.
Really?
Yeah, so but I'm mostly English. Yeah, it's kind of I just didn't expect it in my lineage. I went through 23andMe.
Yeah.
It was kind of a shock. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, really.
Thank you, though. Yeah.
So when I was in Israel, we went to the Palestinian territories. I stayed with a Palestine. We went to a refugee camp and listened to people from both sides. And one of the things we did was go to Hebron, to Abraham's tomb, which on certain days, Thursdays, I think, at that time, now, I don't know what it is, you know, I don't know what's going on right now. They would have Muslims come, but it was the high holidays, and only Jews were allowed to go in to Abraham's tomb. Well, there was a young woman who was a Palestinian American who we really bonded. And I said, you know, they had soldiers with guns, you know, could only have Jews go in. She had this long braid and didn't look very Jewish. And I said, I am not going in unless, now I can't remember her name, unless she can go in. So we walk up to these Jewish soldiers, female and male, with guns. They take a look at her and say, are you Jewish? She says, yes. And say, are you Jewish? She says, yes. And so we got to walk in to Abraham's tomb, hold hands, and go into Abraham's tomb together.
My aunt had a book that I read, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was about someone, I think from England, who toured the Holy Land in 18-something. And at that time, the desert wasn't blooming. It was very dry and arid. They hadn't really learned the systems they have now with every plant getting its drip of water that it needs. I was so impressed with everything that was growing in Israel when I was there. It was amazing. But in this book, they all lived in peace within each other. It wasn't until...
It's not just the book, it's in reality.
Yeah, and that's the way they all lived together
Right.
until the intervention with Great Britain.
Right.
And I can understand anyone who is living in a country where all these immigrants are coming.
Right.
I don't know if you've read any of Bodie Thom's books about the, what is it, appointment to Jerusalem and where it starts out with the Nazis and the progression through Europe, and then the next set of books starts out with the week before Britain pulled out of Israel, and they're fascinating because you get the same people in both books, but just the way that we treat people. It makes it hard for people not to be hostile toward each other. So, anyway, so I am so glad to see your point of view as being open to seeing people as people. So thank you for that. So if we're gonna have some announcements to read, but if we have anything else, anybody wants to talk anymore, otherwise I'll go ahead and do the announcements. So, thank you so much.
So, okay. Oh,
We don't have to leave with the camera. So today from 2 to 5, we're all invited to Pat and Les McClellan's celebration of their 50th wedding anniversary. This is a come and go event here in the sanctuary, and they ask that you do not bring a gift. We would be very grateful if volunteers would stay after the service to help move the chairs and bring round tables in. Meditation is tonight at 6 and open to everyone. The Navigating Grief Support Group meets every Monday at 6. This week, the Tuesday Morning Book Club is starting the book Divine Visits by Judy Varga. They meet every Tuesday at 10 and everyone is welcome to join them. The map makers are meeting every Thursday at 10. All are welcome and there are a variety of ways to help with this effort. This Thursday at 6, the 1946 road trip across America tour will be stopping in Springfield. Along with a free showing of 1946, the mistranslation that shifted culture, there will be discussion with various guest speakers, and you must register online, and once you're registered for the event, they will send you the location. Saturday, August 24th at 7 p.m., we're excited to announce Inner Works for solo percussion. Come and enjoy the amazing talents of percussionist Eric Scott Rousseau. Eric says, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present Inner Works. I'll be sharing a piece of my heart with you in God's grace and presenting a suite for percussion 5 movements, one for each decade of my life. In the New Thought and World Religion class at 9:15 next Sunday, Karen Crago will begin a 2-part series titled When Writing Writes Back, Write to Discover. Save the date for September 8th. Greg Tamplin will be joining us. He will be doing the talk and music for our Sunday service and also a concert that afternoon. We have a paid staff opening for custodian. If we are interested, anyone interested, stop by the office for an application or email. And on the Greg Tamplin concert, I think I went to England with him last year for 10 days and then journeyed on to Ireland by ferry with him, and he is an amazing, gentle soul, and I hope that he gets a really good turnout because he's amazing and funny and fun to be with. And that ends the announcement. We're closing early today, but thank you all for joining us. And if you would like to donate, you can go online, you can do PayPal, and Venmo,
Tidely.
and Tidely. So, thank you very much and have a good day.